On today's episode, we're going to be talking about a new nation. Let's take a trip down memory lane. In 1774, the First Continental Congress met in Philadelphia. They organized a unified colonial boycott and agreed to meet again if their terms were not met with England. In 1776, the Second Continental Congress met in Philadelphia to discuss the idea of unifying the 13 colonies into a nation and breaking away from British rule. On July the 2nd of 1776, John Dickinson's draft of the Articles of Confederation is submitted to Congress for debate and revision. On July 4th, 1776, Thomas Jefferson published the Declaration of Independence, separating England from the colonies. In 1777, the Articles of Confederation are presented to the states to be approved or ratified. Virginia is the first state to ratify the document on December the 16th of 1777. In 1778, the Articles of Confederation is ratified by 10 of the 13 states. In 1779, Delaware is the second to last state to ratify the Articles. The Articles of Confederation would not and could not be approved or ratified until all 13 states approved it. How can we analyze the challenges faced by the framers of the United States Constitution? So it's February of 1787. Congress requested the presence of delegates to a convention to be held in Philadelphia to amend or change the Articles of Confederation, which consisted of a weak government to initiate the new country. What is a convention? A convention is a formal name for a meeting of people that are focused on a common interest. The delegates arrived in May of 1787. James Madison had a plan for a new government. The delegates faced many obstacles in drafting a new constitution. One problem was that the states acted like independent countries. Who were the leaders? Who were the major leaders of the Constitutional Convention? The Constitutional Convention was home to three of America's pioneers, James Madison, George Washington, and Benjamin Franklin. George Washington presided over the convention, Benjamin Franklin served as the convention's elder statesman, and James Madison is the father of the Constitution. Let's evaluate the major issues debated at the Constitutional Convention. What were the Articles of Confederation? Okay. In 1781, the Articles of Confederation became the first governing document of the United States when Maryland ratified it. The Articles of Confederation intentionally created a weak central government and strong independent states. Yeah, there were many weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation. Congress had no power to coin money, therefore each state developed its own currency, which was problematic. Congress was unable to regulate interstate and foreign commerce. Congress was unable to impose taxes. It could only borrow on credit. No national court system was established, and there was no executive branch either. Amendments could be added only with the approval of all 13 states. Approval of 9 of 13 states was required to pass a law in Congress. One vote was allotted for each state despite the size of its population, and it was just a firm league of friendship. There were strengths and accomplishments of the Articles of Confederation. The government signed a treaty of alliance with France in 1778. The government successfully waged a war for independence against the British. And the government negotiated an end to the American Revolution in the Treaty of Paris, signed in 1783. The government granted the free inhabitants of each state all the privileges and immunities of free citizens in the several states. The government provided for the eventual admission of Canada into the Confederation. And the government established the Departments of Foreign Affairs, War, Marine, and Treasury. Whoa. What about the rights of states to govern themselves like the federal system? Well, James Madison, the father of the Constitution, won out. In his federal system, the three branches of the federal government is what we base our Constitution on today. Many feared a strong national government. They did not want a central government telling them what to do. So some states refused to ratify or accept the Constitution until amendments that were added limiting the government's power. One of these amendments were the 10th Amendment that guarantees certain powers are reserved for the states. What was the Great Compromise? The Great Compromise settled the issue of representation between the states. The compromise settled that each state would get 2 senators, and each state would also elect representatives based on their population. Oh boy. What about slavery and the 3/5 compromise? Slavery was another big issue. Northern slaves had fewer slaves. Some even planned to emancipate or free their slaves. They did not want to count slaves as part of their population. Southern states had a lot of slaves. They wanted slaves to count as part of the population. The issue was important because population would affect a state's representation in Congress. The 3/5 compromise settled the dispute. It stated that each slave would count as 3/5 of a person. That doesn't even make sense. In 1783, the Revolutionary War between Britain and the colonies was officially over when the Treaty of Paris was signed. Here's something to think about. Pause this movie and take a look at this compare and contrast map of the Articles of Confederation and the United States Constitution. Can you compare and contrast? Can you find similarities and differences between the two documents? Thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to check out our Teachers Pay Teachers store, follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, and check out our Pinterest boards. Hop on over to our YouTube channel where you can see some fresh videos that are always being churned out, and head over to our blog, www.bowtieguyandwife.com.